Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Want the Ball Back. At the beginning of the lockdown, the company that I work for put out a notice to all clients that we could not be doing occupied repairs unless it was an emergency. Less than a week into it, one of our clients decides that our notice does not apply to them. Calls for us to do an occupied repair for our hole in the wall with a side note to retrieve the baseball inside. The following morning I checked in with the leasing office and tried to get a little info as to where the hole was and any info as to what I'm about to walk into. I was told that they wanted the ball back because it was autographed and very valuable. Their kid was playing with it in the apartment. I was also informed to try and keep it to a minimum because the resident was paying for the repair. I wish they had told me how much of a jerk resident was going to be. I go to the apartment, introduce myself to the resident, and was greeted with very rude words. I tried to assure her that I could fix the wall, but she just slammed the door in my face. I returned to the leasing office and explained to the assistant maintenance supervisor what just happened. He just said, "Here we go again. Let's go, I'll talk to her." We both go back, and the supervisor tells her that I'm more than capable of fixing the wall, and he personally requested me to do the job. She let us in with a look of disapproval. I start the job by spreading out a drop and cutting out the already baseball-sized hole bigger so I can see and feel around for the ball. That's when I determined that the wall is a staggered wall and I won't be able to find it. For those who don't know, a staggered wall is two walls built with an inch of space between them, used for muffling noises and oftentimes used to hide plumbing. I told the supervisor that if she really wants that ball, I'm going to need to open the wall even more. He goes to talk to the resident, and all I hear is her yelling, "I don't give a damn if you got to open the entire wall. I want that ball." The supervisor comes back and motions for me to take a step outside while he made a phone call. A minute later, my boss calls me. He tells me that when I get the okay, I can do whatever I need to find the ball, and to keep track of my time. At that point, I realized I'm going to open up a wall just to find a ball. The property manager shows up with a paper in hand and has the resident sign it, then turns to me and said go for it. I began taking out the lower half, pulling the insulation and looking high and low. About 1.5 hours later, we found it in the insulation wedged between the plumbing and a stud of the neighboring wall. The supervisor lets the resident know that we found it. She collects the baseball and freaks out. The supervisor reminds her that she didn't give a damn if I had to open the entire wall. Needless to say, I closed up the wall, not leaving any sign of it ever being opened. The paper the property manager had her sign was to ensure the resident would cover all costs. What should have been a $200 job turned into a $1,000+ job, and the autographed baseball turned out to be worth zero. The autograph was from a college player who didn't go pro. Hopefully she learned something from this. The next story is called Service Calls for Everything. I work for a printing company, and as I tell a lot of people, much of my job is literally malicious compliance. People want things printed, despite how they look, spelling and design errors, and just being plain ugly. A while ago, one of the other locations absolutely destroyed one of their printers. Toner everywhere. The finisher unit was a hunk of plastic and metal. I don't know what they did to the machine, but it was crazy based on the photo, especially since the toner cartridge is not in the finisher unit. An investigation took place, and it was discovered that rather than calling in printer technicians to repair the machines, some of the company employees were repairing them instead. A company-wide message went out, essentially telling everyone not to repair or perform maintenance on the machine ourselves. Genuinely common sense things that had to be put on paper because someone did something stupid. We were always supposed to put in service calls to the techs to come take care of the machines, or we will be brought to HR. 3 months later, last week, 2 guys from loss prevention, who will be Tweedledump and Tweedledumber, came in to do a regular check-in. Everything was going great, until I needed to change the paper in one of the printers. Tweedledum approached me and basically began raking me over the coals, saying that only technicians can open the machines. Of course, I am dumbfounded, because all I am doing is changing the paper, but just shrug and say, Sorry, won't happen again. Well, the next day I was brought into a meeting with HR over a video call, basically wagging their finger at me. My boss D took the fall for me and said he was the one to tell me to change the paper, so I got off scot-free, and D only got a slap on the wrist. However, as a result of this, the whole facility went into malicious compliance mode after that meeting. Need to change out the paper trays? Service call. Paper jam? Better put in a service call. Need to change the toner? That's a service call. Our output of jobs last week was absolutely in the toilet. Machines were down for nearly 90% of the shifts. The techs were having a field day, however, as they got paid per call they took. While our backlog is through the roof, we were able to make our point eventually. I am not sure exactly what had been happening in the background, but today I received a handwritten apology from Tweedledum and Tweedledumber with a $50 Visa gift card. It said they didn't understand what our job required when they reprimanded me and referred me to HR. We are back at full capacity now and have a huge backlog to catch up on. I am hoping in addition to this gift card, I can also get in some approved overtime for some extra spending money on an upcoming trip I have planned. The company I work for may be dim at times, but at least they often admit when they make a mistake. The third story is called Crazy Goals. Years ago, I was a low-level IT manager at a major media company. My team was understaffed. We had too many projects to care for and no IT tester to test our apps. So the programmers, I and the product owner, a business side non-technical member, needed to test our apps ourselves. The IT director, my boss, never helped with this issue because of budget reasons. It was common knowledge that the company has major money problems for years. It was bad, but we managed to properly care for our apps. Our primary project was redesigning our sport news app, which produced the biggest revenue with mobile ads. The app was 8+ years old at this point, and it worked like a really old car. So obviously we were creating it from scratch. It was a slow process, because at the same time we needed to update and fix many other apps. And we were basically a skeleton crew. The problem started when the product owner left and was replaced by someone that I can only describe as cartoonishly not fit for the job. It was a person that did not care for the product, users or other people. The only important thing for her was to make her boss, a business director, happy. An ideal yes man. She was also lazy and had no true experience or knowledge about creating mobile apps. She never really did anything important that the former product owner did. What she was doing was organizing meetings, going to meetings, drinking coffee and just slacking off on the rap. It was not a big deal for me, because I did my job well and everything was going forward as planned. And she behaved okay-ish. The important part is that she did not test the app and she really didn't know or wanted to know the app. I have never seen her using any of our apps now that I think about it. One day, she informed us that there is some internal deadline for finishing our app and it is February 1st, almost a full year later. This is just some budgeting date that for any sane company is not that important for in-house projects. We informed her that with all our responsibilities and the lack of programmers, the chances of finishing every planned function are near zero. But we could release a basic version of the app without this and that function for a really small portion of the users, like 1%. Later we could update the app with missing stuff and then progressively go to 100%. She was happy with the solution and the whole team was informed about our plan. So we proceeded as before, creating the new app and caring for other apps at the same time, and informed her about our new app progress every week. Fast forward to November, and I have a short vacation period. When I return, I learned that the new PO is furious with our progress, even though everything is going according to plan. During my absence, she informed our bosses that we are in crisis mode because the app will not be ready for February 1st, and we, and mainly me, are to blame. Turns out her boss wanted the whole app to be ready and not some basic version of it. She never really informed him of our agreed plan, or he changed his mind or whatever. So she tells everyone that the plan was always to fully release the whole app, and now we are the liars. No one took our side, and at this point I was already looking for a new job. We needed to cut many functions after all, because it was just impossible at this point to finish them. Here's the malicious compliance. I stayed at the company until the deadline, and the last thing I did was release the new app to every single user. One of the most important parts of the app was the mobile ads that created the revenue. The app itself was free. I created the ads just as I was told to and tested them myself. The PO did not test the app, so nobody noticed that the new app had way fewer ads that are showing way less infrequently. But what the app had more is bugs, of course, because we couldn't probably test everything with that amount of work in that short time with no tester. Months after its release, the ad revenue plummeted and the users were not happy with the app, so many of them moved to other apps. I was happily working somewhere else at this time, and I heard that it was total chaos with this new app. Because of the revenue issue, the PO and her boss even considered bringing the old app back, which is hilarious because it barely worked. Last time I checked, even the most die-hard programmer that worked there for more than a decade, which is a miracle in IT, left sometime later. Years later, and she still works there. The current team is still understaffed and overworked. The apps are buggy and poorly managed. Meanwhile, I have the best job of my life, and for many years, everyone is extra happy with my management. The last story is called No Internet for Employees. When I was at university, a friend landed a part-time job doing networking for a really small company. He asked me if I wanted in, because he also had other customers and was worried he wouldn't be able to handle them all. It was easy money, 12 hours per month, to basically maintain the network infrastructure, upgrade the firmware on routers, check logs, run antivirus software and install some stuff on computers. So I said yes. The company used to fix and sell printers and printer-related stuff. It was run by two ladies that were friends. Let's call them May and June. The CEO in functions was May's husband. Let's call him CEO Peter, who was also June's husband's best friend. The rest of the company were accountant Peter that shared the name with the CEO, some technicians that were never there, and two hardworking sales representatives. Basically, the accountant, technicians and sales reps were the only ones doing work there. Even though May and June were also technically sales reps, they hardly ever made a call. May spent all day browsing the internet for things to buy. Her thing was shoes. June spent all day chatting with another guy, not her husband, who also shared the name with the CEO. Let's call him Third Peter. And CEO Peter spent all day watching adult stuff. Yes, at work. May appeared to have no problems with CEO Peter's habits. I spent most of the time there trying to clean CEO Peter's computer from the myriad of viruses that he would install browsing sketchy sites. Even when I complained a lot about it to him, he said that he didn't know why there were so many viruses and kept doing it every single day. The place was full of drama, and after a while my friend and I would pretend to have work to do there and spend time there just for the laughs. One day, May approached me furious, saying that she caught one of the sales reps browsing the internet instead of doing calls. So she wanted to disable the internet for the reps. I checked the logs. The rep browsed the specs of one of the machines she was selling, a newer model she wasn't familiar with. So, cue Malicious Compliance. I disabled the internet for the whole company. About 2 minutes later, May, June and CEO Peter came running to the server room, shouting about what the heck was happening to their internet. Accountant and sales rep pretty much never realized something changed because they were hard at work. I told them that May made me do it. She said, but just to the reps. And I told them some bull that I couldn't block a specific IP because they were assigned dynamically, so they were about to change and blah blah blah. CEO Peter was red as a tomato. He demanded to reinstate the internet for everyone. I looked at June and she nodded. I looked at May. She said, "Are you sure you can't just for them?" I said no. She exhaled. Okay then, internet is back up. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.